streaming out.
Yes, you're back. Yes, you're back on now.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, yeah. I think we might have problems somewhere along the line, but I'll persevere and hopefully it'll get. Yeah.
Okay, then.
Okay. All right, cool. Cheers. Right. Let me get rid of that. Right. Sorry, everyone. I don't know quite what happened there. We seem to have issues with. I don't know what. I can see we've got somebody waiting. Margaret, give me a thumbs up if you're ready to come onto the screen. Oh, I can't work it out. Can't work it out. What's going on? Margaret, can you hear me? I don't know. I've got somebody in the screen. Let's have a quick look at the comments. So, welcome back, everyone. Sorry, welcome back. Let's start this properly. Don't know what's happening. If I'm buffering badly, I'm sorry. There's obviously an issue going on somewhere along the line. Here we are, Sunday night, back in the Podding Shed. We're here to chat about gardening as we always do. What I normally start with is what have I been up to over this last week? Well, yesterday, the storms, we suffered absolutely no damage whatsoever, apart from one of my water butts that was empty, got blown over. So we've escaped that, and I was very glad because my greenhouse on the allotment was my particular concern. But fortunately, that's been okay. Now, apart from that, I've built the new Christmas bed down here on the allotment at home. And get it going. Let's just see if Margaret is ready to come on screen. Hello, Margaret. Are you there? I can't hear you. Have you got your microphone turned on? Right. I can't hear you at all. I don't know if that's me or what. I'm just going to try, because I've got Sean as well. Let's just see if Sean's working. Sean, are you working there?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear Sean. I just can't hear Margaret.
Right. I'm not quite sure what that would be.
No, she's gone now.
Maybe if she zaps herself back in again, it might fix the issue.
Maybe. Let's fingers crossed shoot fly again. Let's find out. How are you, Sean? Anyway,
I'm fine. I didn't plan to come on. I put out a video at 6, and then I was like, oh, balls! I shouldn't have done that. I should have waited until you'd finished. I completely forgot that you were on at 6.
Well, it happens. It happens.
I've been busy doing my gardening by the moon.
What is biodynamic gardening for those that don't know?
It is working with the elements of the moon, because if you can accept that the moon affects the tides and the rivers, then surely it affects the water that's in the soil.
Right, yeah.
And I know people say to me, oh, I'm not interested, but we work with the seasons. This is just another extension. You wouldn't put your runner beans in October. So you're working with the elements at the moment. This is just taking it to the next step. So I'm doing experiments this year where I'm planting on good days and bad days, and we'll see at the end of September whether there's any difference. It could be a complete waste of time, but let's see. Let's have a go. It's like when Charles Dowding started his no-dig method 30 years ago. People probably said, "Oh, he's just wasted his time," but now everybody's doing it.
That's very true, and it's got to be said. If you don't experiment with these things, you'll never know if it works or if it doesn't work.
Exactly. So talk to me in about 6 months' time.
6 months' time to a year, and we'll see if it actually works and if it works out quite well for you.
But if anybody wants to follow along with me, Then I've put a video over on my channel just at the moment, so see it after this is finished. And I've put dates on there of what I'm going to do over the next 2 or 3 weeks. So, for example, I'll be planting my main crop potatoes on Thursday afternoon, because it's been seen through the research that sowing and planting in the afternoon has a far more beneficial effect on the plant than sowing it in the morning. Biodynamically, you harvest in the morning and you sow in the afternoon. And they've done tests, that herbalists have done tests on mint. And garden mint loses its strength from about midday onwards. So you harvest your mint and your herbs and everything in the morning.
Yes. Yes. And that's due to the oils and stuff within it. It gets diluted as it goes on later on throughout the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is some sense to it. It's not just an old wives' tale. According to Andrew Norris, who's over in Croatia, his grandmother also grew according to the moon. It's not a crackpot theory.
I actually
You
think
can't argue
maybe-
with someone's grandmother, can you?
Well, I actually think maybe Europeans are a bit more open to this sort of thing. You find
Mhm.
British people are a bit cut and dry, you know. But I know people now that secretly go to the allotment in the dark, you know, at dusk, because they don't want other people to see them digging their plots. Which is a big change from when I first interviewed Charles 10 years ago. And Charles Dowden said that people that do the no-dig method are hiding away, and they don't want people to find out. Whereas now it's completely gone the other way, and people who are doing the old-fashioned method are keeping it on the download.
Yeah, that's yeah. I mean, I always say each to their own. Everybody has their own styles and their own ways of gardening or doing whatever they do. Doesn't mean any way's wrong or right. It just whatever's works best for that particular person.
Well, I think that a lot of our methods came from the Victorian kitchen gardeners. And if they went to work, they used to start work at 7 o'clock in the morning. If they went to work at 7 o'clock in the morning and said to their boss, I'm finished by 10 o'clock now, but can I still get paid for a full day? They'd soon be shown the door. So if they turned around to the boss and said, oh, I've got to double dig this entire site, is going to take me 3 weeks, then they got paid for that work.
Yeah.
So I think I'm approaching 2021 and I'm restarting the button, and everything that I've learned about gardening, I'm sort of put into one side and I'm starting from scratch. Because sometimes when you think when you think you know a subject, it's very difficult then to change your mind when some new thinking comes out.
Yeah, definitely. But I always think some of the most interesting questions I ever receive are also from the newbie gardeners who don't necessarily know what we're talking about and are coming at it from a fresh perspective.
Yes, I've had a few questions since the lockdown, and that's what got me thinking about pressing the restart button and sort of going back to books and seeing how things used to be done. In fact, I've thrown all my gardening books out now, and I've only got this book, the Biodynamic book, and a series of books that came out in the 70s. Now, obviously, there's information in there where you've got to take with a pinch of salt, where you get the red lead and put your peas into the lead to stop the mice from having it. So some of the information you've got to put to one side. But there's, there's quite a lot of interesting facts in there. Facts that have gone by the wayside.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot we can learn from looking at every angle, I believe.
I'm just looking at the comments. Turbo Stream has been reading up on double digging. It was also known as bastard trenching. Now, I don't know if that's because of, if you've ever done double digging, you will start swearing.
That's, yeah, I mean, I can honestly say I've never double digged a bed in my entire life. And the reason, when I started gardening, and this backs up what Charles Dowding, I was 10 years old at the time, and we had literally just learned, this was at primary school, that if you put any leaves or anything on top of a surface, the worms will drag it down into the soil. And I had a discussion with my granddad about this, and I sort of said, well, what's the point of digging if worms are going to do the whole lot for you? As far as he was concerned, you had to double dig. We had to double dig. And I just went, no, I'm gonna try it with this little patch of land. And that's what I did. And I've never double digged, and it's proved well for me over the years.
Well, as somebody said to me, I can't remember his name now. He was a YouTuber based down in Brighton, and he's given up now, and he's cancelled his whole channel. Chris, his name was Chris, and he said something that he was on his plot one day, and he looked across to the forestry, and he thought, well, nobody goes in the forest to dig it every year. Everything just falls down, and it just naturally composts into itself.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's certainly an interesting subject, and I'm open to it, and we'll see how we go.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be interested in seeing how you get on with it and how it goes for you with doing biodynamic gardening.
Well, I'm trying to do an experiment. Let me change hands because my hand is hurting. I'm trying to do an experiment where I'll plant, say, for example, my potatoes on a good day. Then I'll plant half the row on a... So hopefully we'll see by the end of the year whether there's a difference.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll follow this quite closely and see just how much of a difference it makes as we go on.
There you go. That was a bit of an impromptu chat.
Yeah, that's right, because I quite like these impromptu chats. So I think they're the best ones.
Well, it won't be long now, and the clocks will change. You'll probably be on the plot at this time in the night.
No, I'll still be here.
Right. All the best, and I'll catch up with you.
Yep, you take care. Thank you very much for zapping in, Sean.
Bye.
Bye. There we go. That was Sean James Campbell. Hang on. He's still there. There he goes. That was Sean James Campbell. If you want to zap yourself in and bring something to the conversation, I'm going to add the link down into the comments. If you're in the Facebook group, you won't see it, but if you're on the Facebook page, you will, or if you're on the YouTube channel, you will. The phone line is open as well. Let's start that off. Going across the bottom of the screen, if you want to zap yourself in. Oh, right. We've got Margaret back. Let's see if this is working this time. Margaret, can we hear you? No, can't hear you. There's no sound coming out of you whatsoever. So, yeah, I can't lip read today, so I have no idea. I'll take you out, Margaret. Try and get your microphone working. We'll try again. There we go. This is the joys of live shows. Sometimes we don't have a clue quite how everything is going on. Let's have a quick look at the comments. Apologies, this is really a jumbled start today because of everything going on. Now, what I was going to try and chat about today, and Sean's actually started this off unbeknownst to him, is what tips or what gardening hacks have we all learned over the years that have benefited us and you would share with anybody who's new. As Sean has hinted at there with his new style of biodynamic gardening, I think trying these things out are going to pay off. But if anybody has new tips or new techniques that they want to share with everyone, let us know in the comments or zap yourself in on the link, or you can call in on 07307 135 174. Let's have a quick... Sean, could you paste the name of the book and where to purchase it? It sounds very interesting. So, Sean, if you're still watching, just add a thing to that. Ernie Samat has joined. Good evening to you. Hope you're well. Not long till spring. In fact, I can safely say it's here. Yeah, I think it is certainly here. We got daffodils up. We got tulips up. We're seeing the buds on our trees and bushes start to spring into life. And more importantly, the weeds are starting to grow as well. So it's certainly safe to say it is here. Allotmental doesn't chip potatoes either. That's something actually. Chitting potatoes. I'm discussing potatoes on the podcast this week, along with a couple of other things going on. Lots of questions came in this week actually on the podcast. If anybody listens to the audio podcast, chitting potatoes. Farmers don't do it. I do tend to do it. I've actually moved them out of here. They're not in here anymore. They're out in my garden, in my greenhouse. But I do chip potatoes, not purposely, but because I've got the potatoes anyway, and if they stay somewhere dark, they will shoot anyway and just grow some really long shoots. So I'd sooner control it and just chip my potatoes, but I'm not fussed whether they chit or not. Turbo Stream, I am doing no dig as it seems to work with nature. Common sense to my eyes. That's exactly what I felt about when I was 10 years old. It just seemed to make sense to me. Never done any other than no dig from the Dippy Plotter. Absolutely, I've been the same, except when I planted potatoes. Obviously I've dug out potatoes, to be fair. Double digging brings subsoil to the surface, so loose good topsoil. Yes, the other side to that is that we put in compost and manure on top, so it's a difference of opinions always, and I think double digging does have its merits, and I think especially on the cold wet clay that I have and the couch grass that I have on the allotment particularly, double digging would definitely pay off, and I'll be able to control those weeds a lot better. And the downside, of course, of no dig that I find is having enough compost in order to keep going. Doesn't double digging break the soil up more? It does. And if you leave it the big clumps before the winter, the idea is the frost will get into those clumps and they break the soil up a lot better anyway. Unfortunately, where I live, we don't get that much of a frost. It really doesn't happen too much. What else? Brilliant, Sean. Hopefully you'll come on for updates. Yeah, please do keep us updated. I look at the neighbours' plots that dig. Their plots always look a right mess and muddy. Each to their own. Definitely each to their own. I know Turbo Stream, you're on clay like me, and I agree. The clay is probably one of the worst soils to ever work with, I find. Margaret, who was trying to call in, I was going to ask you about my strawberry plants. They were new runners from last year. They were going fine, but the leaves went crispy over winter, even though I covered them. More green leaves came again, and now they are going brown again. Do they need anything? It's probably just that we had a bit of a warm patch, and that's probably when they started to grow. And then we've got another cold snap come along, which is probably when the brown leaves. I suspect that they will probably recover okay, Margaret. But what you might want to do is, it's probably a bit too early to use tomato feed. But if you've got some chicken manure pellets, I might be able to throw some chicken manure pellets your way. Actually, might just help them out, just in case they are having a bit of problem. If they start flowering, that's when we want to start using something like a tomato feed. But just realised these comments have made me really small like that. But yeah. Keep them looked after. I've got myself some new strawberry plants just the other day, which I've moved into my greenhouse in order to try and get some early strawberries. Now, a tip here coming in from Stuart Jackson: use paper pots and save money. We were going to have Stuart, we've got to arrange this, have a paper pot making competition on a live stream. We'll have to sort something out pretty soon about that. Turbo Stream, my tip is to plant with a bulb planter. Make a hole, put a small amount of chicken pellets in the hole, then plant the plant, dust with fish blood and bone, then firm in as normal. Worked well last year. What I would also, actually, I'll leave that comment up there. What I would also say, and I saw it earlier, is to add some of this. Mycorrhizal root grow, really good from Empathy, who are really good company from my experience. This is like a mycorrhizal fungi which helps the roots and all the plants communicate with each other. I try and use it as much as I possibly can, and when I plant a plant, I dust that into the soil as well, and it really does help helps create this fungi network, which is so important and creates like a communication throughout these networks, throughout the plants. Sorry. So yeah, chicken pellets, fish and blood and bone, and perhaps a bit of mycorrhizal fungi. Fantastic. My trouble with double digging was my soil wasn't two spades deep and had to go no dig with raised beds. I had a similar problem on my original allotment where we could only go sort of a foot down. I was putting in a pond actually, but we could only go a foot down and then we hit chalk. And this was in Brighton, which, if anybody knows Brighton, is a very chalky atmosphere. So yeah, that's the other. Again, I find with clay, this is the other reason I like no dig. With the clay that I'm on now, by building up, I'm actually creating better soil on top because it's all that compost, and that really has helped. Well, I believe it helps the plants grow and put those roots down into that clay soil themselves. That's my personal little opinion, anyway. No problem with a little side bet. We can't gamble, but we'll do something. We'll do something. I can't complain because our allotment is an old farm fields that was worked 100+ years, so the soil is nice, not to use, not needing much work. Excellent. You are very, very lucky in that regard. I don't know what our allotment was before. I know before our houses were built on this land, there used to be a meadow here with a load of orchards down the very far end. This house was built in 1938. And I thought, when I did research when buying this place, I thought that was going to lead to some really beautiful, nice soil. But I think when they built their house, and the person who was here before wasn't much of a, I want to say not much of a gardener, but that's not true. He's more of a builder, but very much into attracting birds and wildlife into their garden. And this has left me with this incredibly hard clay soil. It's the only way I can describe it, hard clay soil. I put a picture up the other day on Instagram of my fork that snapped, and that's as I tried to dig out, or not dig, what was I doing? I was digging up my potatoes, and as I leant onto it, the fork just snapped because the clay, the clay soil was just so hard, and it snapped in pieces. Turbo Stream, I think I heard about fungi stuff on Muddy Boots channel. I need to get some. Well, I highly recommend that company called Empathy, partly because they're a local company, and I know the guys there quite well, and they're pretty damn good. Highly recommend it. It's available in most garden centres nowadays. I see them in. Definitely worth buying. My tip is, don't forget to just sit. This is from Sean James Cameron. Don't forget to sit and enjoy the allotment. Listen to nature and relax. It's not all work, work, work. I totally agree. It's not all work, work, work. We've got to make the most of it. Rather than double digging, would rotating compost and manure be as good? Trouble with rotivating, and I made this mistake, is that if you get couch grass, it chops up all those little bit of roots, into little pieces, and then that makes the couch grass a lot worse. So yeah, definitely rotivation has a lot of going for it, but I gotta say I don't think it's worth doing it anymore. A few more comments coming in. Absolutely, Sean, with cup of tea, of course. I prefer coffee myself. Here, Sean. Nature is what the allotment. Embrace this while you can. There's always time for a cuppa. And Sean, beautiful. There we go. Now, if you want to call in 07307 135 174, and if you want to zap yourself in, the link is in the comments. Now, I was at the beginning, I was trying to say that awful start that we had. I was trying to say what I've been up to on my allotment or my garden. Now, the allotment, I went down there for about an hour yesterday. Far too windy to try and do anything. We were lucky we didn't get any damage apart from the water butt blowing over. So we were very, very lucky on that front. But I just went down there, harvested a few bits, checked everything over, and I was quite happy with that. It was just too windy to try and do anything. But back here, apart from a lot of mess that we can't get rid of because of trouble going to the tip at the moment. There's queues for about 2 hours for our tips if we're lucky, and they actually say we shouldn't be going. Starting a booking process soon, actually, when it comes to going to the tip. Apart from a load of mess, we were actually quite near to completing my allotment, my garden plot with how I want it this year. As you see, we've got the sub pod in place. I've built a new bed, which is going to be my Christmas dinner bed, which we discussed a few weeks ago on this very live show. And I've also been refurbishing one of my quail cages, ready to move my quail birds into there. And hopefully then we can get plenty of eggs. My quails haven't laid eggs yet, actually, and I'm a bit worried that it's a bit late for them. Hopefully they will lay some eggs soon, because I also want to start breeding my eggs soon and getting some new baby quail. Tomorrow, however, looks like I've got the day on furlough tomorrow, so hopefully I can spend a bit more time in the garden tomorrow and catch up and complete a few more things. On the comment front, very true, Sean. I can sit for hours watching the birds and ignoring the task in hand. Very, very true. Does chipping the roots of ground elder apply the same? Possibly. I've not had much dealing with ground elder, to be honest. So if anybody out there has had much in the way of dealing with ground elder, then potentially, yes, if you rotivate it, those roots could grow back and produce more, which probably would apply. But what I would say, actually, there is a little, any plant, if it doesn't have any leaves, if you keep hoeing it, it will not survive, no matter how strong the roots are. But you've got to make sure absolutely no leaves will show themselves. But yeah, I would have thought ground elder would struggle as well. But just keep at it. Just keep at it. Shed sign is not on. No. I pulled it out earlier to change the batteries and realised I didn't have enough sight of the batteries to fit in it. There's some weird noises going on outside. I don't know if anybody could hear it. Oh, it's somebody out there screaming out there. Sorry. Yeah, no, I pulled it out to get some batteries in it, and it didn't quite work. What else have we got? I have ground elder. Do not chop the roots. It will multiply big time. There you go, Ernie. Turbo Stream, who has got ground elder, does say do not chop the roots because it will multiply a lot. Something else I've done, you may have noticed. It is still quite windy outside, but look, the shed doesn't open. The door doesn't open. I've put a lock on the inside, which is keeping that door from opening and shutting inside here. And on that note, it's extremely windy in London from Sean. And have you thought of potting lights on in the quail shed to extend their day? I have thought of that. Just to me, it just feels a bit unnatural to it. I know people do that with chickens and quails. It just feels very unnatural for me to do that. Saying that, I do that with over here with my grow lights, so probably just as unnatural. Yeah, perhaps I'll look at it. Although I've got to make sure then that quail shed is very, very, very waterproof and doesn't leak at all. Sorry, wrong one. Best way is to try and fork up and loosen the soil as much as you can to pull up the roots. That's talking about ground elder. So if that's any use to you, where was it? Ernie. Yeah, try and remove as much of the roots from this ground elder as possible. Has Amanda locked you in? No, she hasn't, thankfully. She can't get to here because she's dealing with her mother. It's Mothering Sunday, after all. Sam's Allotment Diary has joined. Good evening to you. And Adrian, it works with geese. Now, that's funny you mentioned geese because I've always wanted to keep ducks and keep chickens and keep quail, and I've always wanted to keep ducks. And I was watching this video earlier. Anybody with slugs and snails will know how much of a pain slugs and snails are, even if you don't keep them. But I was watching this video earlier, and I know about this with ducks, that they will go and hunt a lot more slugs and snails than any of the chickens or any other birds that we would have. And this is one of the reasons that I like the idea of keeping ducks, to hunt down all these slugs and snails. And this brought me up, or what I've learned when I was doing a bit of research earlier today. Chinese use duck a lot in their cooking, and the reason for that is what they would do is have ducks go along their paddy fields when they weren't growing rice in order to clear out all the slugs and snails. Now, obviously, Chinese don't waste any of their food and try and get the most of it out as they can. So once the ducks have done their job, obviously that will end up in their cook pots. But for me, that just goes to show how efficient ducks are at getting down on the slug and snail population. Can you keep livestock on your allotment? We can. We are allowed chickens. We've had people apparently before my time who have kept turkeys and ducks on the allotment. We allow bees as well. But there's a lot of rules with regards to what we can or they're getting harder and harder. On the whole, most people seem to keep chickens, although I'm waiting to see a few other birds that are, or if anybody else is going to keep any ducks or anything like that. We have the one and the only Mr. Stuart Jackson in the zapped himself in. Stuart, how you doing, my friend?
All right, how are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there's a bit of a delay.
Yeah. I've had a quiet day. Yeah, that's normal for around here.
Excellent. You know, you're quite an experienced gardener. What tips can you share?
I'm still learning. Well,
you're still
the paper pot one saves. Yeah, still every day is a learning day. Every day is school day. Paper pots is my big thing. There's 1,500 paper pots in my greenhouse full of seeds or plants. And that's, just think of the plastic I've saved. That's the way I'm looking at it. The plastic I've saved and the money I've saved.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to use newspaper. You can use your junk mail.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I tried doing it in the past. I think the reason I don't get on with it is actually sitting down and finding the time to do it. But that's a whole other argument. That's in some ways why I like, dare I say it, plastic pots. But then when I'm finished with them, I can reuse them, wash them out and reuse them.
Yeah, totally. I've got a plastic shed outside full of plastic pots, and I will use them when I get down, the potting stuff on to sell. But like I'm like you, I got clay, so I have a really hard germination I did last year for parsnips. So I've sown them in paper pots, so I can just drop them straight in the ground. And germination this year has been amazing.
Interesting.
So, and I know you use root trainers for your peas and your beans and stuff, and you could probably do that with your parsnips. But paper pots, you don't touch the roots. There's no worry about the soil falling out the bottom. You just drop the paper pot in. So that would be my top tip. And I've only been veg gardening for like a year, so that. But I've even, I've used paper pots for flowers, and there's a lot of flowers, especially perennials, that don't like being disturbed. You're supposed to sow in where you want them to flower. So that's why I started doing it, really. So when for instance, a poppy, you sow a poppy, you try to move a poppy. It's really difficult.
Yeah.
So I sow them in paper pots and then pot them on and then sell them. So that's the way I sort of work at it, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, the reason I rung in, Rich, is because my chili challenge, they're getting to the stage of potting on, which I haven't got a problem with. It's when do I put them in the greenhouse?
Mine
They're
are in the
indoors at
greenhouse
the moment.
already. Yeah, mine are in the greenhouse already.
Yeah. But yours are a little bit ahead of mine, aren't they? Yours is 30 plus.
30 plus. So what I would do is just take a couple, don't do it tonight, do it in the morning, stick them in the greenhouse and just see how they get on.
Sacrifice, just in case, sacrifice to see. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, basically. If you've got enough, then do that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I might
mine
use
already
the strong ones then.
Yeah. I mean, try and get the biggest ones because they've got the best chance of surviving. I am a bit in a slightly warmer area than most people, but we do get away with going in the greenhouse already. Even my tomatoes are going out in the greenhouse now.
When would you pot them on, though? What size would you put them on? Because they've got 2 leaves at the top, which
sorry, carry on.
They've got 2 leaves at the top. That's all they've got at the moment.
Oh, okay. Oh, they're quite babyish still. Are we talking about the seedlings?
Yeah.
Right. I would wait. Then,
I think they are. Yeah.
Wait until you see the true leaves before potting them on.
Okay. Fab.
That's what I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, I got.
That's my
problem.
Yeah. We'll see what anybody. If anybody else. Yeah. Sorry, this delay is very difficult.
It is. I'm gonna have to start using the laptop, I think, because my phone. I think it's the phone rather than the internet. Because the internet is quite good. I'm gonna have to start using the laptop. And then ring you off my phone. But I think what I was going to say was about the true leaves. The true leaves are the next two to come, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah. That's all right then.
Normally,
I'm still learning. I don't.
Sorry. I was going to say normally the seed leaves. Sorry. Couldn't hear that.
It's all right. It's fine.
Normally the seed leaves look like the outer of the seed, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. I think I know what you mean.
Yeah. So if you imagine like the seed is just broken in half and they've turned to leaves, that's what I normally find the seed leaves looks like, and then you get the bigger ones after that.
Yeah, that's fine. That's absolutely good. It's going to help me a load. The only thing I'm going to say one more comment, and then I'll let somebody else ring in. Would you be a no-dig gardener if you weren't on clay?
Yeah, because when I was in Brighton, it was on sand, and when I was in my parents', it was on loamy soil. So then it's worth doing the no-dig method. I've, as you know, my raised bed is no-dig anyway, and I'm introducing it at school to make it easier for the kids at school, because I don't want them double digging.
I don't want to double dig, so why should I make them double dig? So
Yeah.
I've introduced one bed at the moment, but the intention is to change them all to no dig, just to make it so much easier.
Well, you're probably in the
So, and-
ideal. Sorry, you're probably in the ideal
carry on.
place to experiment. Yeah, I was going to say you're probably in the ideal
Yeah.
place to experiment and show the two differences between the two beds.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to hope to do this year. And it's not really aimed at the bigger children, the year 6s and 5s and 6s who's strong enough to dig. But when you're like tomorrow when I get to school, I'm with 4 and 5-year-olds. So if I take them in the garden, there's no way I can give them a fork and say dig the ground, because they're just not. They just wouldn't be able to push it in the ground, let alone turn it over. So that's So I've just got to, this year, like I said, is going to be an experiment and then see how it goes. But I'm sure it will go no dig completely.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
Because
keep us posted.
I might not 2 years, 3 years on. I will.
Yeah.
I will. Anyway, I better let somebody else ring in. Otherwise, it's my time. Your time. I will see you next week.
Sorry. Yeah, we'll do. I'll chat to you during the week, actually.
Okay, no props.
You take care.
Okay, take
Cheers.
care. Okay, bye.
Hang on. Where do I? There we go. No, that's not the one. Sorry, I'm trying to. That's my one. There we go. Got him out there. Sorry. When there's a delay, it's very difficult because I hear nothing and I'm sort of thinking, oh, I've got to jump in. So sorry to Stuart or anyone thinking I was talking over Stuart. That was not my intention. It's when there's a delay, it's very difficult. And I hate dead airspace. Right. So from Ian Beddoes in the Facebook group, I've been trying to catch the bats that fly around here to save some money at Iceland. He's always a joker, Ian. Shame you can't keep a pig or two. They would clear out the ground out there. Pigs are fantastic on an allotment if you can get them. I personally have known allotments, and I wish our allotment site did it, that when they're empty, they would send in some pigs to dig over the soil, remove all the weeds and manure the place. I think pigs are absolutely fantastic. Question: when do second early potatoes go in from TurboStream? Well, I'll be doing all my potatoes next weekend. I put them all in one go. It's a big old sluggish of a day when I'm planting potatoes, but I put them all in next week. I think the correct thing would actually be to get your first earlies in next week, and then in a couple of weeks' time, so early April, get your second early potatoes in, and then the main crops in the end of April. I had a conversation with a potato producer last year who was saying that actually you can sow potatoes or plant potatoes right up until the middle of May. But we tend to do them. Well, the traditional day is Easter Sunday, but as we know, Easter can fluctuate between each year. Could be as early as the middle of March or as late as the end of April. So that's why I always find St. Patrick's Day a much better way of working out when I plant my potatoes. TurboStream is liking the idea of sowing parsnips in paper rolls. I think that is a great idea. I used to save toilet rolls as well for that sort of thing. The only trouble is the wife didn't like me hoarding all this stuff all the time. What else have we got? A lot of comments coming in. TurboStream, I always sow parsnips directly because, like carrots, they don't like to be transplanted. That's also what I do. Because my early sowings are made in pots on my windowsill, they tend to go so leggy. I pot on before true leaves, and it seems to be okay. Most of them grow on. Well, yeah. Whatever works for you. I just tend to wait until we see the true leaves before I pot them on. Don't know why, it's just how I've always done it. There is an interesting course about soils on FutureLearn. We can help people to understand why no dig is better for soil health. It is not always ideal. Yeah, there's on Netflix, there was what was it called? Kiss the Ground. Absolutely interesting little documentary on no dig and what have you. Yes, Sean, I might try a few to compare this year. Transplanted, talking about growing parsnips in paper pots. Ideal, but if you can no dig, well worth it to look after the soils. Definitely. The muddy boots method for carrots and parsnips from Ballycillian parsnips works great for me. If I remember right, he grows his, and I do something similar, in some large old water containers, and he makes lines in the soil and then sows into that, if I remember correctly. Oh yeah, sorry. The next one, I use the muddy boots. Sorry, I didn't see that. Hello, Stuart Reynolds. Hello, mate. Hope you are well. St. Patrick's Day it is then. Thank you. Yep, no problem. What I would say is actually keep an eye on the weather just in case there is a risk of frost. Potatoes are quite hardy though, but mine will go in next weekend, and it's never let me down. But I do keep a bit of a fleece handy just in case we suddenly get some cold snap coming along. Watch that Netflix program. It was so educational from somebody in the Facebook group. I was really surprised with that Netflix program, Kiss the Ground, how well orchestrated it was, considering it was a what do we call it? It was a Netflix program which, you know, gardening and Netflix aren't exactly well known. I was genuinely quite surprised with that. In Hargrave, we have clay that's solid as a rock. My plan is to dig it over, then move to no dig. Yeah, I mean, I personally, this is my personal opinion with the clay that I've got, and this is what I think about no dig, is that I'm putting the compost on top and I'm going to plant my plants into that. As the plants grow and they pop their roots down, they're going to break into that clay soil themselves and break down that clay soil themselves. Now, if it's really, really hard, which it sounds like you got at Hargrave, obviously the roots might struggle to break down, but over time, I think it will do it a lot better than anything else. If you want to garden by the moon, Thursday the 18th of March in the afternoon is the day to plant potatoes. UK only date. Which is, if I remember right, St. Patrick's Day is Wednesday. So it's fairly close on that front with that. Right, we've got a few minutes to go before the end of this show. Anybody else got any tips or anything you want to add? Don't forget, this is your show. We can just chat about anything on gardening. If you want to call in 07307 135 174, or you can zap yourself in. I'll add the comment in the link. If you want to zap yourself, excuse me. Yeah, if you want to zap yourself in, the comment is in the link. You can always try a green manure for tough soils. Alfalfa plant roots are supposed to break down hard soils. Definitely. I've done what was it, Facilia on my allotment, and I'm a big believer in green manures. I'm trying to experiment more and more with them. I'd much rather be growing food in my beds, but obviously that's not possible necessarily 100% of the time. So when I can't grow food, I'm trying to grow onto green manures. Alfalfa is one that is quite good. Trying to think what else I've got. I've got mixtures, and I absolutely love Facilia because it has really helped lock out the weeds on my allotment where I was sowing the Facilia. If the entire lot was grown like that, it would just create this heavy, thick mat that won't let any couch grass grow either. So, yeah, green manure is a good one, Chi. I will PM to you to let you know what I'm about. Yeah, please do, mate. That'd be great. Right, we're going to start wrapping up after that slightly dodgy start, but I've got to get out of here on time because mother-in-law's here for Mothering Sunday, unfortunately. So I apologise for that. What have we got coming up on the podcast this week? We've got, as I said, I'm talking about how I grow potatoes. something that's coming up. I've had a question about what plants to go around a pond on an allotment, and how to grow chilies from seeds without the use of grow lights. Something that I forget sometimes. I have grow lights and I get a really good early start, but somebody's asked this question and I think it's actually a pretty good question. That's coming up on the podcast out on Monday night. Hopefully, if I get it filmed in time, there'll be a video coming out this week of my new Christmas dinner bed, as I call it, which you guys helped me design and plan. So that's coming up this week. I missed it all. Good luck with the mother-in-law. Sorry, Kimmies. You can watch it back on replay. If I get a chance, I'm going to try and edit out the bad bits. But yeah, good luck with thank you. Let's a quick look at the comments. So, planting by the moon, doesn't matter what country you are in. And Shauna says yes, because the dates and times are different. We had a late frost too, wiped out the gooseberries. Yeah, we very, very, very rarely get a frost, especially a late frost or a hard frost here. So we're very, very lucky, very lucky. Hope she isn't watching with Amanda. No, she won't be. There are numerous calendars for all parts of the world. Off to watch Sean's new vid. Bye all. Thanks, Richard. Well, thank you, Turbo Stream. Yeah, I'll be watching that afterwards as well. And I started my chili seeds on the boiler top for that extra warmth, which goes in with that question I've received this week. Right, well, I think that is it for this week. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. Despite the slightly rocky start, we'll try and sort that out and find out what happened. But yeah, thanks so much, everyone, for joining me. We'll be back again next Sunday, same veg time, same veg place, which would tie in quite nicely to when I've just planted out my potatoes. So if anybody wants to share some tips or anything like that, get in touch. If anybody's got any pictures or anything, either place them in the Veg Grower Podcast Facebook group. I'm going to start making my photo videos again. Get those in the Facebook group or email me, richard@veggrowerpodcast.co.uk. Right, until next time, you take care. I'll speak to you all again then.